Hey, it's Aaron here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about bad spending habits that you must stop doing now. See, the thing about generating a lot of wealth and the difference between wealthy people, the middle class, and poor people has everything to do with your habits. I know that sounds really simple, but stick with me for a second, and I'm going to share with you 6 bad habits that you need to stop doing with your spending that you may not even realize that you're doing right now. So I come from a middle class, traditional Asian family, and we did okay, but in 1997, the Asian financial crisis basically wiped out my entire family, and we really struggled to get back on our feet again. And what I realized really quickly after that was the way that I was spending my money and the way that we treated our money and our habits had a lot to do with how much money we actually had. So I hope you enjoy this list, because this list is something that I was doing myself. I was making a lot of these bad decisions, and it was eating away at my savings and my checking account, and I didn't even realize it. So let's start with number 1. So bad spending habit number 1 is emotional purchases. Okay, this is the worst, right? Because emotional purchases basically is anything that you want to buy for whatever reason. You just feel an attachment to it. You don't even know why you're buying it. You just buy it, right? And sometimes these things can be very expensive. It could be a handbag. It could be a sports car. It could be a nice house. It could be a nice expensive pair of branded jeans. Some of these things you don't really need, right? And for you, it's just an emotional purchase. You're walking on the street one day, you're just window shopping, and all of a sudden you see this beautiful branded handbag in a shop, and you just make that spontaneous emotional purchase, and you want it for whatever reason. It's beautiful. You think it'll look great on you. You know, maybe it's Christmas time and you're feeling a little bit emotional and you just want that thing. And what you don't realize is emotional purchases are the worst because it's completely out of your control. You're literally letting your lizard mind make that purchase decision, and that's bad because it happens to a lot of people, and sometimes the price tag on the things that you buy can be very high, and that will eat away significantly at your savings and your checking account. So what you need to do is you need to recognize that a lot of the purchases you make might be an emotional thing, right? You don't necessarily need that handbag. You don't necessarily need that sports car. You don't necessarily need that very expensive house. Maybe you can buy something that's a little bit more modest, something that's a bit more affordable, something that you can actually get and still have a lot of savings, right? And so it's about being practical and recognizing that a lot of the purchases that we make can be emotional, and then stopping yourself from actually doing that. Bad spending habit number 2 are spontaneous purchases. We know how this works, right? You have just finished your shopping, you're with your shopping cart, you're coming to the end of the checkout counter, and all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that you don't need that is right there. It could be chocolates, it could be mints, it could be chewing gum, it could be clothes, it could be promotional items that you don't necessarily want. And the retail companies do this on purpose because they know that people will make spontaneous purchases when they're waiting at the checkout line, because you're just kind of sitting there doing nothing, right? IKEA does this really well. If you've ever been to the Swedish furniture shop, IKEA, they are masters in making you buy more stuff than you actually need, right? So the spontaneous purchases for them is not only when you're lining up at the checkout counter, but they have a whole food section after you make your purchases. Remember, they've got the IKEA hot dogs. I always end up eating 2 IKEA hot dogs, the IKEA sundae cones, the IKEA biscuits and chocolates. That all happens after you pay. So you're paying twice. Crazy stuff, very effective for the retailers, very bad for us as consumers, okay? So again, this comes down to control. Do you really need to eat those extra 2 hot dogs? Do you need to buy those extra chocolate bars as you're waiting in line? Do you need to buy those promotional items? No, not necessarily, okay? Now, when you do this once in a while, it's not a bad thing. But if you're doing it on a regular basis, these spontaneous purchases do add up in cost, right? And sometimes it's not even just at the checkout counter. It could be something that you see that you like in a department store. That could also be a spontaneous purchase. You're like, oh, hey, I didn't even think of buying that thing. Maybe I don't even need it, but I just want it, right? And then you just swipe it on your credit card, and swiping things on your credit card is the worst thing to do. So if you want to learn the exact strategy that I use to get to multiple 6 figures online, go ahead and register for my free 6-figure workshop by clicking the link in the description box or the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you there. Bad spending habits number 3 is spending outside of your earning power. Okay, this is a big one, but a lot of people don't realize this, and this especially happens when you are making a big purchase. So maybe you're looking at purchasing a home, right? And look, we want the best things for ourselves, but a lot of people trick themselves into thinking that they can afford things that they really can't, okay? So for example, if you're looking to purchase a home, perhaps you can't really afford that home in that really, really nice area and at that particular price point. Yes, maybe you're going to take a loan from the bank, but when you take a loan, you got to put down a down payment, right? And then you got to pay a mortgage, and maybe the mortgage every single month is much, much higher than you can actually afford. And so a lot of people do this. They spend money on a big house, on a big home, on an expensive car that they can't really afford. They have a car loan, they've got a mortgage that's very, very high, and it's taking up maybe 60 or 70% of their actual income every single month, and the rest of the money that they have is just for spending, and it's not really enough. Okay, so what you're doing is you're spending yourself out of your month, right? A lot of people don't realize that. So they are spending more than they can actually afford, and this is a very, very bad habit. What you need to do is you need to scale back. You need to live below your means. I know that sounds crazy. Spend below your means, that's not very good when you can afford a little bit more, but the reality is when you spend below your means, you'll be a lot more comfortable. All right, spend modestly, buy a modest home in a modest area. What happens then is everything's lower taxes, lower mortgage, lower repair costs, and everything just goes down, and it allows you to save more money. Saving more money in your savings and checking account will allow you to build more wealth instead of constantly being stuck in debt and constantly coming to the end of the month not having enough money for that month. Bad spending habit number 4, and this is, I think, one of the worst ones, and this is keeping up with the Joneses, right? So what this basically means is you're spending money to impress other people. So you don't really want that thing, you don't really need that thing, you're just buying it because other people have it, and you're trying to give people the impression that you are successful. That's the worst thing to do, right? Because the reality is why do you care about what other people think about you? Why do you care about what kind of car you drive or what other people think about you if you're driving a not so nice car? And this is the reason why people push themselves to purchase more expensive things than they actually need. Right? The reality is that you just need to focus on yourself, and you shouldn't care about what other people think. You don't need to keep up with your neighbors. You don't need to keep up with your friends. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses, right? Just do you. Okay, and everybody's got a different journey. Sometimes it takes some people a little bit longer to have success compared to other people, right? And if you understand that this is something that you succumb to on a regular basis, then you can stop yourself from making stupid expensive purchases and racking up those credit card bills, depleting your savings, which is the worst thing that you could do. Focus on you. Don't worry about what other people think. You're not here to impress anybody. And if you can implement this inside of your life, you're going to slowly build up a great amount of savings, an emergency fund, and this habit is going to help you move into the middle class and then eventually into the wealthy elite. Bad spending habit number 5 is spending money on unhealthy things, right? And there are 2 major unhealthy things. That's alcohol and cigarettes. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a good drink every single weekend, but there's a difference between understanding where you're spending your money and then just blatantly spending it without even having any idea, right? So if you're drinking every single day, then that can add up. You know, if you're drinking 4, 5, 6 beers a day, 7 days a week, that is a bad habit that you need to cut, because alcohol can be pretty expensive, again, depending on where you live in the world, right? Some countries they're taxed, other countries they're not really taxed. So it just depends. But you need to ask yourself, should you be drinking 6 units of alcohol every single day? Perhaps you can cut that down to maybe just a few drinks on the weekend, or maybe 1 beer or 1 glass of wine a day, and then maybe a little bit more on the weekend. That will save you a lot of money. Smoking is exactly the same thing. I mean, in some countries like Australia, it's 30 Aussie dollars for a pack of cigarettes. Think about that. That's 210 Aussie dollars a week on cigarettes. That's $840 a month just on cigarettes. That's insane. That's like a mortgage. That's a rental right there, right? So you can see how these bad habits can add up significantly if you're not aware of them. And all you need to do is just cut back a little bit, right? I'm not saying completely stop smoking or completely stop drinking. You just need to be aware of how much these things cost, where your bad habits are, and then figure out a way on how you can scale them back a little bit so that you're not just, throwing money down the drain. And bad spending habit number 6 is putting everything on your credit card. Okay, this is a hugely bad habit, right? Now, I put things on my credit card, but I only spend money that I actually have. The big problem is in a lot of cultures, they are taught to spend money that you don't actually have. That means you might have 5 credit cards, they're all maxed out, but you can't pay the credit card companies back. Now, what happens here is you're racking up your debt, and then you can only pay the interest back on your loans, and that's really, really bad because you're never really going to get out of debt. You're spending the bank's money, not your own money, okay? And so this is a hugely bad habit, and what you need to do is you need to get into the habit of spending money that you do have, right? So the solution here is to just get rid of your credit cards. Throw all your credit cards away and apply for a debit card. Now, the difference between a credit card and a debit card is with a debit card, you only spend money that you actually do have. Now, what that means is every time you swipe your debit card, you're gonna think twice before you actually make that purchase, because that's money that's going to come directly out of your savings account, right? So you're going to be a lot more careful on the purchases that you do actually make. Now, this might seem hard initially, but eventually it's going to become very, very easy, right? So I only spend money on my credit card to get credit card points, which I use for miles, and I convert that into business class flights. So I fly a lot of the time business class for free because I'm strategic with my credit card. But I always pay my credit card bill back at the end of the month, and therefore I'm a very, very bad bank customer because the banks don't make any money from me, right? And that's the way that you need to look at credit cards. Use it for points, not for money that you don't actually have, right? Then use again your debit card and spend that money that you actually have, and you will be a lot more careful on the purchase that you actually make. So there you have it, 6 bad spending habits that you may not even realize that is happening to you right now. And I hope that this video opened your mind a little bit and will help you to change the habits that you're using right now so that you can move from, broke status to maybe middle income and then eventually to wealthy status. The reality is that a lot of people that are wealthy just have very, very good spending habits. It's not that they came into a ton of money all of a sudden. It's actually lots of little good habits about managing their money that they've implemented over a period of time, right? The better your habits, the more money you save, the more money you can take to building an income, like building a business, for example, and then taking that business income and then putting it in investments. That's how the rich get richer. It's not that they, again, won a lottery ticket and had a ton of money. Look, if you have poor spending habits, even if you won $1 million in a lottery, that money would be gone in a couple of years, right? So it's about understanding how to manage your money properly, how to save, how to take that savings and then parlay that into maybe a business, and then taking that and turning it into investment income. And that's how you really grow your wealth. Let me know what you thought of this video today. Let me know if you got some value in the comment section below. And listen, if you're here and you would like to find out a little bit more about how I took my income and then grew that into a business income that earned me multiple 6 figures a year, I would love to show you how to do that for free in my free 6-figure workshop that you can register for in the description box or comment section below. See you there. So I hope you enjoyed the video today and you got lots of value from it and you learned a lot from it. If you like content like this, remember to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you know every time we come up with a brand new video. And if you want, you can check out one of the videos I recorded recently, super fun. You're gonna get a lot of value from it as well, and I hope to see you there. Take care.